Ladies and gentlemen, let us all rise for the arrival of the Honorable Senate President and the Senators of the Republic of the Philippines.
The 28th session of the Senate and the first regular session of the 18th Congress is hereby called to order. Senator Roland Bato de la Rosa will lead the chamber in prayer.
Let us pause for a moment in the silence of our hearts. Let us recognize the holy presence of the Lord in our midst and pray for His blessings. Almighty God, the source of life and the creator of all things, we come to you today asking for your guidance and wisdom. Send your spirit of compassion to dwell in our midst and help us engage in meaningful discussions. Allow us to grow closer as a group and fill us with your grace as we make decisions and arrive to a conclusion. Altogether, we also pray for those who suffered from physical abuse due to hazing or maltreatment, especially to those who lost their lives. May your divine mercy grant them eternal peace in your heavenly kingdom. Likewise, we also entrust into your divine care the grieving parents of all hazing victims. May they find comfort and strength in your most loving heart. Above all, our most merciful God, we fervently pray that by your divine will, may the bad practice of hazing would finally cease and among all our academic and training institutions. Lastly, please continue to remind us that all that we should do here today, all that we must accomplish, shall be for the pursuit of truth and absolute goodness. May our actions and attitudes please you, that we shall merit your grace as we continue to glorify you in the service of our dear country, in the service of your people. All this we ask in your most mighty name. Amen.
Amen. The Senate choir will lead us in the singing of the Philippine National Anthem. The Secretary will please call the roll.
Roll call of members, the Honorable Senators Angara, Binay, Cayetano, De Lima, De La Rosa, Drilon, Gatchalian, Go, Gordon, Ontiveros, Lacson, Lapid, Marcos, Pacquiao, Pangilinan, Pimentel, Po, Recto, Revilla, Tolentino, Villanueva, Villar, Zubiri, Senate President Soto III.
With 19 senators present, the chair declares the presence of a quorum.
Nag-file din ako para
Majority Leader.
sponsor na tayo lahat. Opo. Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, we have here with the gallery some very important people, particularly Deputy Speaker, Brother Eddie Villanueva, the better version of Senator Joel, the original Villanueva, Mr. President. Together with the JIL regional and area churches and pastors that are here with us today. We also have with us, Mr. President, Justice Georgina Hidalgo of the Sandigan Bayan, together with the Ms. Gemma Posadas, Chief Judicial Staff and Budget Finance Division of the Sandigan Bayan. They're here with us.
We welcome all of our guests to the Senate. Thank you for the visit.
Mr. President, we have a bill on for third reading. May I ask our colleagues to settle down so that we can vote, Mr. President?
Yes, but what about the journal?
Mr. President, I move, that's correct, Mr. President. I was going to jump the gun. Mr. President, I move that we suspend, dispense the reading of the journal of the 27th session, Wednesday, September 25, 2019, and consider them as approved.
Any
so move.
objection? Chair is none. Journal is approved.
Do we need to act on the reference of business, or can we go on third reading now? I would
Third
recommend,
reading?
Mr. President, that we go first on third reading and then
Yes,
act on the journal after.
correct.
Mr. President, I move that we resume consideration of Senate Bill number 1043. I so move, Mr. President.
Any objection? Hearing none, consideration is in order.
Mr. President, I move that we vote on third. First of all, Mr. President, I would like to just put on the record that we have distributed copies on of this measure last September 25, 2019, thereby complying with the 3-day rule of the Constitution. Mr. President, I move that we vote on third reading Senate Bill number 1043 under Committee Report number 4.
Hearing no objection, the Secretary will read the title and conduct a roll call vote.
Senate Bill number 1043, an act postponing the May 2020 Barangay and Sangguniang Kabataan elections, amending for the purpose Republic Act number 9164 as amended by Republic Act number 9340, Republic Act number 10632, Republic Act number 10656, Republic Act number 10923, and Republic Act number 10952, and for other purposes. Roll call vote. The Honorable Senators Angara, Binay, Cayetano, De Lima, De La Rosa, Drilon, Gatchalian, Go, Gordon, Ontiveros, Lacson, Lapid, Marcos, Pacquiao, Pangilinan, Pimentel, Po, Recto, Revilla, Tolentino, Villanueva, Villar, Zubiri, Senate President Soto III.
With 21 affirmative votes, no negative votes, no abstention, Senate Bill 1043 is approved on third reading.
Thank you very much, Mr.
Senate
President.
Leader.
Mr. President, with the permission of the body, I move that we consider proposed Senate Resolution number 147, taking in consideration proposed Senate Resolution number 148. I so
Any
move.
objection? Hearing none, consideration of the resolution is in order.
Mr. President, with the permission of the body, may I ask the Secretary to read the title of the measure?
Secretary will read the title of the measure without prejudice into inserting into the records the contents of the said resolution.
Resolution recognizing and congratulating Jesus is Lord Church for celebrating its 41st founding anniversary on October 26, 2019.
The Majority Leader.
Yes, Mr. President, to sponsor the measure, may we recognize the distinguished chairman of the Committee on Finance, no other than Senator Angara, Sunny Angara, to give a sponsorship speech. Mr. President.
Senator Sani Angara will sponsor the measure.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Majority Leader. Dear colleagues, we stand once again, as many have done over the years, to sponsor a resolution recognizing and congratulating the Jesus is Lord worldwide movement on the occasion of its 41st founding anniversary this coming September 30, 2019. This sponsorship is particularly auspicious as we are graced here in the Senate plenary by the presence of no less than the founder of the JIL congregation, Brother Eddie Villanueva, also a Deputy Speaker of the House of Representatives. With the help of 15 other students from the Polytechnic University of the Philippines, or PUP, Brother Eddie established the JIL in 1978 as a small congregation where people can share their spirituality, express their faith, and build their ministry. That the JIL started out as only a small grouping of 15 students from PUP and grew into a global congregation spanning 60 countries is only testament to the sincerity, compassion, and charisma of Brother Eddie, his pastors, and our colleague, Senator Joel Villanueva. I understand Brother Eddie will be celebrating his 73rd birthday this coming October. Advance happy birthday po. JIL is truly a global congregation. Because of that, it is able to achieve great things. Even non-members of JIL would appreciate how the JIL worldwide movement has helped and continues to guide roughly 5 million people, many of whom are Filipinos but also include foreigners. In other words, 5 million people across the world have had darkness lifted by the light of JIL's teachings. Bukod po dito, nagpapasalamat din po tayo sa JIL dahil nagsisilbi rin silang paraan para makapag-ugnayan ang mga kababayan nating OFW hindi lamang sa kanilang pamilya, kundi sa Panginoong Diyos. In short, JIL has helped keep families together because it has kept them close to God. Many of our colleagues, in fact, the majority leader and some of our colleagues bore witness to this when we visited Hong Kong last year, Mr. President, and felt the strength of the movement. And so, Mr. President, allow me to underscore our thanks and appreciation for the JIL for the role it has played in the spiritual and family life of our people. I ask that this august body swiftly approve this measure. Thank you, Mr. President.
Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, no other member, anyone else? No other member wishes to sponsor the measure. I'd like to interpolate the measure. Move to close the period of interpolation.
Hearing no objection, so closed.
Mr. President, also no member would like to contribute any individual as well as committee amendments. I move to close the period of amendments.
Hearing no objection, amendments closed.
Mr. President, I move that we adopt proposed Senate Resolution number 147 and taking into consideration proposed Senate Resolution number 148, subject to style. And Mr. President, before we approve it, and I'd like to request the author if we can all members of the Senate be made co-authors.
With the consent of Senator Gara, all members present are made co-authors of the said resolution. So any objection on the motion to approve PS Resolution 147 taking into consideration Resolution 148? Hearing no objection, resolution is approved.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, may we ask for a 1 minute suspension so that we can ask our dear Deputy Speaker, Brother Eddie Villanueva, come up the podium to receive the resolution.
Thank you. Yes, would like to ask Deputy Speaker, Brother Eddie, to join us in the rostrum. So the session is suspended.
sponsorship lang na iba.
Sarap na mag-jump. Saka malinis na. Sarap pala doon. Doon sa Marion. Marion naman ang ano. Maganda yung Marion eh. Katabi lang. Oo. Pero, ibang-iba ng dahil.
Session resumed. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I move for the reading of the reference of business.
Secretary will proceed with the reference of business.
Reference of business, message from the House of Representatives. Letter from the House of Representatives informing the Senate that on 24 September 2019, it passed the following House bills in which it requests the concurrence of the Senate. House number 4581, entitled An Act Renewing for Another 25 Years, the franchise granted to Golden Broadcast Professional, Inc. under Republic Act number 8025, entitled An Act Granting the Golden Broadcast Professional, Inc. a franchise to construct, maintain, and operate a station for FM radio and television broadcasting in the island of Mindanao and expanding its coverage to the entire Philippines.
Referred to the Committee on Public Services.
House number 4583, an act renewing for another 25 years, franchise granted to Broadcast Enterprise and Affiliated Media Inc. under Republic Act number 8098 to construct, install, establish, operate, and maintain radio and television broadcasting stations in the Philippines.
To the Committee on Public Services.
House number 4584, an act renewing for another 25 years, is this franchise granted to Crusaders Broadcasting System Inc. under Republic Act number 8091, titled An Act Granting the Crusaders Broadcasting System Inc. a franchise to construct, establish, operate, and maintain commercial radio and television broadcasting stations within the Philippines.
Referred to the Committee on Public Services.
House number 4436, an act granting the Lanao del Norte Electric Cooperative a franchise to construct, operate, and maintain a distribution system for the conveyance of electric power to the end users in all municipalities of the province of Lanao del Norte.
Referred to the Committee on Public Services.
House number 4437, an act granting the Bicol Light and Power Corporation a franchise to construct, install, establish, operate, own, manage, and maintain a power distribution system for the conveyance of electric power to the end users in the towns of Baao, Balatan, Bato, Buhi, Bula, Nabua, and City of Iriga, Province of Camarines Sur, and for other purposes.
Referred to the Committee on Public Services.
And House number 4582, an act renewing for another 25 years, franchise granted to Gold Label Broadcasting System Inc. under Republic Act number 8087, entitled An Act Granting to Gold Label Broadcasting System Inc. a franchise to establish, maintain, and operate radio and television broadcasting stations in Dumaguete City and other areas in the Visayas and Mindanao where frequencies and/or channels are still available for radio and television broadcasting.
Referred to the Committee on Public Services.
Bill on first reading, Senate number 1075, entitled An Act Prohibiting Black Sand Mining in the Philippines, providing penalties therefor and for other purposes, introduced by Senator De Lima.
Referred to the Committee on Environment and Climate Change.
Resolutions, Senate Joint Resolution number 7, titled Joint Resolution Extending the Availability of the 2019 Appropriations for Maintenance and Other Operating Expenses and Capital Outlays to December 31, 2020, amending for the purpose Section 65 of the General Provisions of Republic Act number 11260, the General Appropriations Act of Fiscal Year 2019.
Referred to the Committee on Finance.
PS Resolution Number 146, Resolution directing the appropriate Senate Committee to conduct an inquiry in aid of legislation on the Memorandum of Agreement between the Armed Forces of the Philippines and Dito Telecommunity, granting the latter permit to install telecommunication facilities and equipment inside military camps and installations, which exposes the country to risk of espionage and potentially endangers our national security, introduced by Senator De Lima.
To the Committee on National Defense and Peace.
Na-approve na daw yun, so proceed to the additional reference. Additional reference of business resolutions. PS Resolution Number 148, entitled Resolution Recognizing and Congratulating Jesus Lord Church for celebrating its 41st founding anniversary on October 26, 2019, introduced by Senator Zubiri.
To the Rules Committee.
PS Resolution Number 149, Resolution honoring Filipino teachers on the occasion of the 2019 National Teachers Month, introduced by Senator Gatchalian.
To the Committee on Rules.
Committee reports. Committee report number 7, prepared and submitted jointly by the Committees on Health and Demography, Social Justice, Welfare and Rural Development, Ways and Means, and Finance on Senate number 1076 with Senator Go as author thereof, entitled, An Act Establishing Malasakit Centers in all Department of Health DOH hospitals in the country and providing funds therefore, recommending its approval in substitution of Senate number 199, sponsor Senator Go.
To the calendar for ordinary business.
Committee report number 8, prepared and submitted jointly by the Committees on Public Services, Civil Service, Government Reorganization, and Professional Regulation and Finance on Senate number 1077 with Senators Poe, Revilla Jr., and Angara as authors thereof, entitled, An Act Creating a National Transportation Safety Board, prescribing its powers and functions and appropriating funds therefore, recommending its approval in substitution of Senate numbers 125 and 651, sponsor Senator Poe.
To the calendar for ordinary business. Majority Leader.
Mr. President, with the permission of the body, I move that we transfer from the calendar of ordinary business to special orders Senate Bill number 1077 under Committee Report number 8. I so move.
Any objection? Hearing none, so transferred.
Mr. President, I move, with the permission of the body, I move that we consider Senate Bill number 1077 and ask the Secretary to read the title of the
The
measure.
Secretary will read the title of the measure.
Senate Bill number 1077, An Act Creating a National Transportation Safety Board, prescribing its powers and functions and appropriating funds thereof.
Mr. President, to sponsor the measures, the distinguished lady Senator, Senator Grace Poe. May we please recognize her to give her sponsorship speech.
Senator Grace Poe is recognized to sponsor the measure.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, good afternoon. As chairperson of the Committee on Public Services, I rise to sponsor Committee Report number 8, which recommends the approval of Senate Bill number 1077, otherwise known as the proposed National Transportation Safety Board Act. Mr. President, sa bawat 5 minuto ng aking talumpati, posibleng may nangyayaring aksidente sa mga kalsada ng Kalakhang, Maynila. This statistic is based on MMDA's Metro Manila Accident and Recording Analysis Systems, which recorded 116,906 road accidents in 2018. Katumbas ng 320 na aksidente bawat araw o 13 aksidente kada oras. Additionally, all transportation accidents carry hefty price tags. According to a 2005 study by the University of the Philippines, a road accident can cost up to 3.47 million pesos in terms of damage to property and loss of productivity. The 2018 World Health Organization Global Status Report on Road Safety revealed that road traffic injuries cost us about 2.6% of our entire gross domestic product. But then again, hindi malalagyan ng presyo ang buhay na nawala. We had 394 road crash fatalities in Metro Manila just in 2018 alone. This does not include rail, marine, and aircraft-related accidents. Mr. President, nakapanghihinayang isipin na maaaring naiwasan ang karamihan ng mga aksidente ito, ngunit mahirap umiwas kung hindi tukoy ang sanhi ng mga aksidente. Mahirap tukuyin ang sanhi kung wala tayong sentral na ahensyang humahawak ng mga imbestigasyon na ito. Our convoluted governance of the transport sector adds to the tragedy. For example, as many as 4 national government agencies, the LTO, LTFRB, MMDA, and the PNP Highway Patrol Group, and 6 local government units have jurisdiction over buses which pass through EDSA. Ngunit may nalalaglag pa rin na bus sa Skyway. Any one of these agencies may be the first responders to the scene, but no single agency really sits down and looks at what really went wrong or how we can prevent it. Thus, the present committee report proposes the creation of a National Transport Safety Board which will focus on road safety. The NTSB will be a 7-member board which will investigate air, highway, railroad, pipeline, and maritime accidents. The report of such investigation will be submitted to Congress within 60 days from the completion. Mr. President, bibigyan natin ng sapat na mandatong NTSB. Halimbawa, bibigyan natin ng visitorial power ng NTSB para makapasok sila sa lugar ng aksidente. Maaari rin nilang suriin ang anumang parte o component ng motor vehicle, vessel, aircraft, or pipeline na naging sanhi ng sakuna. It can decide the manner of inspection, examine evidence, require reports, call for hearings, and other powers related to this investigation. The NTSB will also proactively conduct studies on making the transport sector as safe as possible. As such, the board will look into the causes and determinants of the accidents and help craft policies which will prevent them from recurring. Para wala na pong sinasarang kaso ng nahulog na bus o lumubog na barko na wala man lamang maayos na pagsiyasat at resolusyon. With an NTSB, we will finally have an agency with a mandate to not only investigate but also propose solutions. Ang mahirap kasi, Mr. President, minsan, halimbawa na lang, isang bus na luma, kaya nawala ng preno, hindi magandang pagka-maintenance, ang mismong mag-iimbestiga, ayun din yung nagbigay ng permit sa bus na yon na makapaglayag o makapagbiyahe. Ito po yung LTO. So kung LTO na mag-iimbestiga dito, syempre, mahihirapan din tayo na siguraduhin walang conflict of interest. I've said this before, and I will say it again, the NTSB can save lives. Hindi dapat na kung kailan may aksidente, doon pa lamang tayo kikilos. Policy recommendations should be based on facts and through research, not on knee-jerk reactions and band-aid solutions. The enactment of the National Transport Safety Board Act will be the step towards safer journeys for all Filipinos. Panahon na po para sa ligtas na pagbiyahe para sa lahat. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you, Senator Paul.
Mr. President,
Majority Leader.
to allow our colleagues to study the measure further, I move that we suspend consideration of Senate Bill number, I'm sorry, my apologies, Mr. President. To also co-sponsor the measure, may we recognize Senator Ramon Bong Revilla Jr.
To co-sponsor the measure, I see the principal author of the bill, Senator Bong Revilla, is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. Distinguished colleagues, I stand here today to co-sponsor Committee Report Number 8, recommending the approval of Senate Bill Number 1077, or the National Transportation Safety Board Act of 2019. Mr. President, day in, day out, we see or hear transportation incidents in the news, be it on land, sea, or air. According to data from MMDA's Metro Manila Accident Reporting and Analysis System, we had an average of 49 cases of road injuries and 1 fatality per day in 2018. Per the report, there was a recorded 116,906 incidents last year, kung saan 394 ang namatay. Iba pa po yan sa maritime at air transport incidents, kung saan daan-daan nating mga kababayan ang namamatay mula nitong nakaraang 10 taon. Mr. President, when transport incidents take place, investigations are administered by the very same government agencies, which we have been remiss in their duties to put the right system in place or carry out needed reforms. Having lost thousands of lives to these incidents, We cannot afford to lose more. Worse, hindi na alam kung ano ang mga ito at kung nangyayari dahil sa kapabayaan ng isang ahensya o instrumento ng pamahalaan. Mr. President, no government agency can properly perform such functions unless it is totally separate and independent from any other department, bureau, commission, or agency. The current regulatory agencies involved in the transport industry cannot be expected to conduct a thorough and impartial investigation on any major incident for the simple reason that such agencies may be themselves liable due to the improper or lack of implementation of pertinent laws, rules, and regulations regarding safety. Mr. President, it is imperative that a country like ours need to call for urgent measures to address transportation safety concerns. We need a focused, independent, and adequately managed body which will enhance current safety measures and develop policy options as to how we can improve our land, air, and sea transport system. The creation of National Transportation Safety Board, or the NTSB, which will primarily conduct investigation, put forward cost-effective measures to enhance safety in the transportation of people and goods and prevent, remedy, or mitigate crashes, accidents, and serious incidents involving any mode of transport, including pipelines and conveyors, is what Senate Bill number 1077 is calling for. Ang pagtataguyod ng isang National Transportation Safety Board ang magsisilbing garansya sa kaligtasan ng mga kababayan. Bilang isang independent at non-regulatory agency, pangungunahan nito ang investigasyon sa mga insidente sa himpapawid, highway, pipeline, railroads, karagatan at iba pang mga na may kinalaman sa transportasyon. Sila din ang tutukoy sa mga posibleng sanhi nito na magsasagawa ng pag-aaral na magiging basihan ng pagbuo ng mga panuntunang pangkaligtasan upang maiwasan ang mga aksidenteng ito. Sila rin ang susuri sa kakayahan ng mga ahensya ng pamahalaan na siyang dapat mangalaga sa kaligtasan ng mamamayan. Mr. President, the importance and necessity of a safe transportation system in our country cannot be overemphasized. The enactment of this measure is expected to ensure all the modes of transportation in the Philippines are conducted safely. The NTSB, Mr. President, will be an effective vehicle for the realization of such need. For this reason, I urge all our colleagues to support this measure. Thank you, Mr. President.
Mr. President,
Majority Leader.
to allow our colleagues to study the measure further, I move that we suspend consideration of Senate Bill number 1077.
Hearing no objection, consideration is suspended.
Mr. President, I move to transfer, with the permission of the body, I move to transfer the calendar of ordinary business to the calendar of special orders, Senate Bill number 1076. I so move.
Any objection? Hearing none, consideration measure is in order.
Mr. President, with the permission of the body, I move that we consider Senate Bill number 1076 and ask the Secretary to read the title of the
The
measure.
Secretary will read the title of the measure.
Senate Bill number 1076, an act establishing Malasakit centers in all Department of Health DOH hospitals in the country and providing funds therefor.
Majority Leader.
Mr. President, to sponsor the measure, may we recognize a distinguished senator from Davao, Senator Christopher Bongo.
Senator Christopher Go is recognized to sponsor the measure.
Mr. President, it is with great honor as chairperson of the Committee on Health and Demography that I stand to sponsor and seek your support for Senate Bill 1076 under Committee Report Number 7, entitled An Act Establishing Malasakit Centers in all Department of Health hospitals in the country and providing funds therefor. Mr. President, this bill aims to provide medical and financial assistance to indigent and financially incapacitated patients through a one-stop shop called Malasakit Center and ensure that patients experience and receive compassion, respect, and empathy or malasakit in the availment of health services. Earlier this year, President Rodrigo Duterte signed into law Republic Act number 11223 or the Universal Healthcare Act, in effect making all Filipino citizens members of the National Health Insurance Program or PhilHealth. The UHC is expected to reform the country's health system by improving our health delivery, providing significant insurance benefits and coverage, and responding to the gap in the health workers throughout the country. Now, as we anticipate the changes that the UHC will bring to patients' access and to individual health care, the challenge remains on how we can alleviate the financial burden of indigent and financially incapacitated patients and families who can only afford the health services of public hospitals. The benefits under the Universal Healthcare rely on health benefits package as determined by the PhilHealth. As such, out-of-pocket expenditures may still arise if the benefit packages are not enough to cover the medical needs of indigent and poor patients. Mr. President, data from Mercer March Benefits 2019 medical trends around the world showed that medical inflation rate will outpace the actual inflation in the country and is projected to rise to 13.7%. This makes our medical inflation rate the second highest in Asian region, next to Vietnam's 14.2%. In 2017, the Philippine Statistics Authority reported that out-of-pocket payment accounted for 55% of health expenditures. This is despite the safety nets of already provided by PhilHealth. While the UHC provides for a no-cost payment policy for basic or ward accommodation, the reality is almost all public hospitals where most poor and indigent patients access health services exceed occupancy rates of their licensed beds. DOH hospitals have an average bed capacity of 132%. For LGU hospitals, the average bed occupancy rate is 191%. Medical assistance will help cover excesses in licensed bed capacities of public hospital to ensure zero co-payment of the poor and indigent patients. We must also acknowledge that we are still in the state of transition in the full implementation of the UHC. Thus, the reality remains that there will still be a need for medical assistance and financial support for patients. We aim to fill the gap through the various assistance offered by various government agencies. Mr. President, it is not uncommon for us to see patients knocking on the doors of various government agencies to request for financial assistance to cover medical expenses. In fact, we have here the Senate Public Assistance Centers downstairs that caters some of their needs. No, ako pa man po ay special assistant to the President pa, ganun rin po ang sitwasyon. Araw-araw, napakaraming Pilipinong lumalapit sa aming opisina, pumipila sa ilalim ng init ng araw, nagmamakaawa dahil kailangan nila ng tulong mula sa gobyerno. Dahil walang iisang opisina kung saan maaring dumulog ng tulong ang ating mga kababayan, kailangan pa nilang pumila ng napakahabang sa iba't ibang ahensya ng gobyerno. Paikot-ikot po sila buong araw. Ubos yung pamasahe nila, ubos pa yung panahon nila sa buong linggo. Hihingi lang po sila ng tulong. This depression situation led the Duterte government to establish Malasakit centers in public hospitals. It is one of the solutions we have developed to provide quick and quality access to healthcare to all Filipinos, regardless of their age, sex, ethnic background, religion, and political affiliation. These Malasakit centers serve as a one-stop shops where Filipino can seek financial and medical assistance provided by various government agencies. With this, Filipinos no longer have to endure long lines in different agencies to avail assistance. Currently, we have established 42 Malasakit centers nationwide, which serve 160,000 patients every month. Mr. President, Senate Bill 1076 seeks to institutionalize the establishments of Malasakit centers in all DOH retained hospitals. It consolidates under one roof the assistance given by the DOH, DSWD, and PCSO. To clarify, Mr. President, we are not providing additional funds for assistance. We are merely establishing a one-stop shop for medical and financial assistance. In Malasakit centers, the concerned government agencies retain and run their own medical and financial assistance programs. Ang kaibahan lamang, hindi na mahirapan ang ating mga kababayan natin dahil nasa isang bubong o nasa isang opisina na lamang sila pupunta para sa mga government assistance at hindi na po sila lalayo sa mga hospital para po makakuha ng tulong. Each Malasakit center shall be composed of duly designated representatives from the DOH, DSWD, PCSO, and PhilHealth. The DOH, DSWD, and PCSO representatives shall process and approve the request for medical and financial assistance. The PhilHealth representatives shall assist in the availment of benefits and address other PhilHealth-related concerns of patients. We are pushing to institutionalize this so that we can provide enough personnel in Malasakit centers and for the continued operations of the centers, even beyond the administration of President Duterte. Malaking tulong po ito sa ating mga kababayan. Kung dati kailangan pang pumila sa napakahaba-haba po at nagpapa-interview pa po sa iba't ibang ahensya, ngayon sa Malasakit centers, ang medical social workers na lang ang mag-a-assess ng indigency at ang mismong agency representatives ang magpo-process at mag-a-approve ng assistance. Nandun na po sila sa iisang bubong o isang opisina. Under the bill, Mr. President, other public hospitals may also establish Malasakit centers provided that they guarantee the availability of funds for the operation of Malasakit Center, which includes its maintenance, personnel complement, staff training, among others. Mr. President, Malasakit Center is just part of a bigger picture of providing Malasakit. The proposed measure also establishes a Malasakit program which shall provide a policy framework for integrated people-centered health services in DOH hospitals. The program shall ensure and promote an organizational culture geared towards responsiveness, ensure appropriate infrastructure and processes, and promote client engagement and empowerment. Ang Malasakit program po sa ilalim ng DOH ay magbibigay ng direksyon kung paano ang tamang pakikitungo sa pasyente at sa mga nangangailangan. Hindi dapat maramdaman ng mga humihingi ng tulong na natatapakan ang kanilang dignidad at respeto sa sarili. Basta Pilipino, matanda o bata, babae o lalaki, mayaman o mahirap, it does not matter. Dapat magmalasakit at tumulong po tayo sa kanila. Mr. President, Malasakit centers will therefore have various functions. First, it will serve as a one-stop shop for medical and financial assistance. It will also provide patient navigation and referral to the healthcare provider networks. The centers can provide patients information with regard to membership, coverage, and benefit packages in the National Health Insurance Program, document, process, and utilize data from patient experience through a standardized form to shape institutional changes in the hospital and provide capacity building and performance evaluation that ensure good client interaction. There will also be a special lane in each Malasakit center for the exclusive use of senior citizens and persons with disabilities. To ensure proper provision of assistance, we have mandated DOH to conduct monitoring and evaluation that would assess the responsiveness of Malasakit centers, including a client satisfaction survey, utilizing indicators such as reduced waiting time and percentage of indigent and financially incapacitated patients served, among others. Mr. President, it is with high expectations that we would be able to further streamline and expedite the delivery of services to Filipinos, especially to those who need them most. Thus, I urge my fellow members of this august chamber to support the immediate passage of this measure. Ibigay natin sa Pilipino ang mabilis, maayos, at maasahang serbisyo, lalo na po sa pagdating sa pangangailangan ng pangkalusugan. As I have said many times, pera nila ito ibalik sa kanila sa pamamagitan ng mabilis, maayos at maasahang serbisyo mula sa gobyernong may malasakit. Wala pong ibang requirements dapat dito, basta Pilipino ka, qualified ka. Pera nila ito, binabalik lang po sa kanila. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Villar also is asking for the floor. Would you like to allow the ladies first?
One sentence.
Senator Cynthia Villar is recognized.
Okay. I want to manifest my support to the Malasakit Center bill of Senator Bongo. This is good for the poor people of the Philippines. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Senator Cynthia Villar. Senator Manny Pacquiao is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. As for a manifestation, Mr. President, I have always been passionate about helping our people, Mr. President, especially the underprivileged and the less fortunate. Ramdam ko ang kanilang paghihirap at pighati, Mr. President. Kaya itong sinasabi ko noon na kapag programa para sa mga mahihirap, dapat suportahan natin. Programa man ito ng iba o programa mo o programa ng iba, basta para sa mga mahihirap, dapat sama-sama tayo. Hindi natin dapat kontrahin, no? Napakaganda itong programang Malasakit, Mr. President. Malasakit Center dahil ito na ang abot doon sa lalapit na doon sa mga mahihirap. Hindi na sila mahirapan para sa pangangailangan ng tulong, Mr. President. I'm with you, Senator Bongo, with your passion to help the people. With this, I would like to manifest my full support for the passage of Senate Bill number 1076 under Committee Report number 7, an act institutionalizing Malasakit Centers to complement the implementation of Republic Act number 11223, otherwise known as the Universal Healthcare Act, by requiring PhilHealth to establish, operate, and maintain Malasakit centers in all DOH, LGU, SUC, and D&D hospitals in the country, providing funds thereof and for other purposes, Mr. President. Also wish to be made co-author, Mr. President, with this measure. I hope that the gentleman from Davao, Mr. President, will accept my co-authorship to his bill. And thank you, Mr. President, para sa mga mahirap.
Right, we would like to make such
Yeah,
record.
we accept.
I see Senator Go agreeing. So,
Willingly accepted yung co-authorship.
being co-author. Yes, Senator Sherwin Gatchalian is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I also want to manifest my unequivocal support to the proposal of Senator Bongo to institutionalize the Malasakit centers all over our country. Mr. President, this is a good mechanism to bring down national government services all the way down to our constituents. I've seen our constituents line up for hours, go to Manila just to seek support, seek financial assistance to their loved ones. Talagang kung yung ibang mga kasama ho natin, kung meron ho silang mga kamag-anak na nagkakasakit at kailangan ho nila ng malaking suporta, luluwas pa ho sila ng Metro Manila para po pumunta sa PCSO, pumunta po sa DSWD just to get financial aid and financial support. Pamasahe pa lang ho, lugi na ho sila doon. So, Mr. President, this institutionalization of Malasakit Center is a good way of bringing national government services all the way down to our constituents. There's no cost because it will be set up in our hospitals, in existing facilities, and there's no additional cost to manpower because it will be manned by existing manpower of the LGUs as well as the existing hospitals. Mr. President, the sooner that we can institutionalize this, the sooner that we can alleviate the pains and sufferings of our constituents when they need it the most. So again, Mr. President, I would like to also manifest my intention to be a co-sponsor of this measure. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you.
All right. Before we suspend the measure, yes, Senator Rosani Angara is recognized. And then Senator Bong Revilla, Tolentino, De La Rosa, and Senator Marcos.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Senator Bong. Although he stood first, he graciously yielded the floor.
No.
I also would like to manifest my support for the
Sorry, I didn't see
Malasakit
that.
measure, Mr. President, because I have seen firsthand in PGH that we have patients coming from as far as Maguindanao in the halls, the ER of Philippine General Hospital. So imagine the carbon footprint and the cost of coming to Manila from a place as distant as the Muslim Mindanao. So napakalayo po. So I think maganda po ang intention nitong ating measure. I would just suggest that perhaps we limit it to LNAT rather than all LGUs. Perhaps the LGUs who need it the most, Mr. President, because from where I sit as finance chair, I see that there are some LGUs who will be getting the bulk of the 300 billion fruit of the Mandanas ruling in 2022, maybe even earlier if the Supreme Court reverses itself. So there are also cities which have very nice hospitals, Mr. President. Pagbigyan naman natin yung mga LGU like who cannot afford, or the provinces who cannot afford these nice facilities. But again, I am one with the sponsor, and I commend him for coming out with this very timely measure, which will help the, as mentioned by our colleagues, yung mas mas kapuspalad po sa ating lipunan. So here I express my support, Mr. President. Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Bong Revilla.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, ramdam po natin ang tunay na malasakit ng panukalang batas na ito. Kaya I fully support this measure, Mr. President. Kaya pagtulong-tulungan po natin na maipasa ang panukalang batas na ito sa lalong madaling panahon. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you.
Senator Tolentino is recognized.
Would the good gentleman yield to some manifestation of support?
We are
Yes.
still in the sponsorship.
No, manifestation of support, Mr.
period,
President.
manifestation of support.
I'd
Yes,
like
you're
to
allowed.
join my other colleagues in supporting the passage of Senate Bill 1076. Health is wealth. These simple words have been uttered all throughout society since time immemorial. In the past, this statement just used to appear as a mere cliche, a standard generic quote used by children in their art projects, even July when they celebrate Nutrition Month in school. However, today, more than ever, it is nothing short of being recognized as a universal truth. Good health is something the whole world knows that everyone must enjoy. Ito pong Malasakit Center Bill ni Senator Bongo ay patungo sa direksyong ito, lalong-lalo na sa goal number 3.8 ng United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, which I quote, achieve universal health coverage, including financial risk protection, access to quality essential healthcare services, and access to safe, effective, quality, and affordable essential medicines and vaccines for all, unquote. It is therefore clear, Mr. President, that even our Constitution mandates that the health of the Filipino people should be protected and given utmost importance by the state. As lawmakers, as the representatives of the people, principally given the task of giving life to these most revered words, it is but our responsibility to create and enact laws that will promote not just our people's health, but also improve their access to it. What started out as a simple one-stop shop in the Vicente Soto Memorial Center in Cebu City has been recognized to be of great value in delivering much-needed health services to the people and is now worthy of emulation all throughout the country. Now we have more than 42 Malasakit centers nationwide. With this bill, we give back dignity to the people who asked for help regarding their medical needs. Soon, gone will be the days when people have to knock at the multiple doors of several government agencies and leaders to ask for medical and financial help, which in the first place, under the Constitution, should have been readily given to them by the state. These people are in need of assistance because they are sick. However, the current process for asking assistance, the maze of bureaucracy, the circus of overlapping functions is making them even more sick. With this bill, those who need assistance only have to approach one center, one kiosk, conveniently situated inside every government hospital, and they receive vital information regarding their health care, as well as receive financial and medical assistance from different government agencies in a more simplified and conveniently streamlined process in the Malasakit Center. This bill is nothing but a blessing to each and every Filipino, and I humbly express my support for its passage, even asking the good senator if I can be made as a co-sponsor, co-author.
We accept the co-authorship.
The Filipinos may not be rich in terms of money and other material wealth, but with this Malasakit Center Act, we may just finally all enjoy the only wealth that matters in the end. That is the gift of good health. Maraming salamat po.
Senator De La Rosa, and then Marcos Villanueva.
Thank you, Mr. President. Before I manifest my support, can I interpolate my kababayan,
We
the other half of the good senators from Davao?
would like to discourage the request of Senator De La Rosa. We're still in the period of sponsorship, so perhaps you
I
can wait
suppose-
until the open the period of interpellation.
I would like to
Manifestation is
manifest my support,
yes.
Mr. President, for the to the measure proposed by my good kababayan from Davao. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Senator De La
Thank you,
Rosa.
Senator.
Senator Jaime Marcos.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. President. Indeed, those who have less in life should have more in law. Those who have no access to reliable, affordable health care should have more through the Malasakit centers. I extend my wholehearted support to this measure and hope that we quickly pass the bill and committee report of our good colleague, Senator Bongo. Thank you.
Thank you.
Senator Villanueva.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is just to put on record my intention to be associated with the distinguished gentleman from Davao with this noble intention, which is very laudable, Mr. President. I've been in public service for quite some time, almost 2 decades, and I have seen how our people have a hard time getting assistance from different agencies of the government, trying to get help from their hospital bills, dun sa mga sakit at karamdaman na nararamdaman nila. And alam natin, Ginoong Pangulo, na may sense of pride din ng ating mga kababayan. Hindi naman sila basta-basta lalapit just because laging gusto lang nilang humingi ng tulong, kundi there are times na talagang desperado na sila and they wanted to seek help from our public officials. And so I'd like to put on record my sincerest support without prejudice also, Mr. President, for this representation to at the proper time suggest and introduce some amendments, if I may, Mr. President. So thank you, Mr. President, and we'd like to congratulate our distinguished colleague for filing this measure, this Senate Bill number 1076. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Majority
President,
Leader.
may I also be allowed to give a manifestation, Mr. President? Mr. President, if there's any province that started the no balance billing, pwede kung sana pwede po ako magyabang ng konti. It was the province of Bukidnon. As a matter of fact, PhilHealth recognized the province of Bukidnon as one of the first provinces to set up that type of no balance billing setup. It's called the Provincial Indigency Health Program, PIHP. But the sustainability was very difficult. The province spent almost $500 million a year on the maintenance of 3 hospitals that was built brand new. And so, any support coming from the national government is most welcome. At tama po sinabi ni Senator Angara today in the newspaper, if you look at the picture of the Philippine General Hospital, patients are lying in the hallways. Patients are already, there's so much patients that it's about to explode, Mr. President. Dami ng mga pasyente na nandun. And tama pong sinabi ni Senator Bongo, dati-rate, pupunta po sila doon, ang bayad, let's say 800,000 yung bill nila. Lagi mo na, maski na 100,000 yung bill nila, Mr. Chairman, for simple medical procedure surgery. Ang bayaran lang ng PhilHealth is only 15,000 to 25,000. Yan po ang katotohanan, Mr. President. May balance pa. And so, the family has to get in touch with a politician, goes to the senator's office, goes to the congressman's office, goes to the PCSO, magpipila po siya doon, goes to the PAGCOR at the time, PAGCOR used to give, goes to several offices. And hirap na hirap po sila. So what Senator Bongo has done is actually a novel idea which should have been done 10 years ago, which is to put everything in a one-stop shop para hindi na po paikot-ikot yung mga pasyente na sa mga ahensya na nagbibigay po ng tulong sa mga nangangailangan. So, count me in, Mr. President, as a supporter of this measure. Although my minority floor leader had a few questions earlier, sabi ko, oh, you can ask these questions in the proper time. But if, with the permission of the sponsor, if I can also be made co-sponsor and co-author of the said measure. Mr. President, I believe also Senator Bong Revilla and all those who stood up want to be made co-sponsors and co-authors.
We place that on record.
Thank you, Mr. President.
All
To
right.
allow our colleagues to study the measure a bit further, Mr. President, I move that we suspend consideration of Senate Bill number 1076. I so
Hearing
move.
no objection, the consideration of 1076 is suspended.
Mr. President, with the consent of the body, I move to transfer the Senate Bill number 716. It's an act providing campus housing to tenured faculty members in SUCs from the Committee on Higher Education to the Committee on Urban Planning, Housing and Resettlement as primary committee. This is in line with the first measure that we already moved to the Committee on Housing as well. Mr. President, I so move.
Motion to transfer referral. Any objection? Hearing none, motion is approved.
Mr. President, I move for a 1 Senate minute suspension.
Session is suspended for 1 Senate minute. Session resumed.
Mr. President, I move for additional reference of business.
Secretary will proceed.
Second additional reference of business resolution, PS Resolution Number 150, entitled Resolution Urging the Executive Branch to mandate the concerned government agencies and local government units to purchase rice directly from Filipino farmers for their aid and relief programs in times of calamities, introduced by Senator Zubiri.
Referred to the Committees on Social Justice, Agriculture, and Finance.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, we have some guests in the gallery. We have here today Mayor Yingwi Hiro Ecleo of San Jose, Dinagat Island, Mayor Don Rebil Ladaga of Loreto, Dinagat Island, and Board Member De La Cruz of Dinagat Island.
All right, welcome to the Senate.
Thank you, Mr. President. And also, I move to, with the consent of the body, reconsider my earlier motion to transfer to the committee referral of SBN 716. I so move, Mr. President, and revert it to the original referral.
The motion is to withdraw the earlier
That's
motion.
correct, Mr. President.
All right.
Mr. President.
Any objection? Hearing none, motion is approved.
Mr. President, there are resolutions, because of the urgency of the matter. There are proposals to have a joint resolution to amend particular provisions of the four-piece law to allow the purchase of palay from our local farmers and to be given as part of the four-piece program. Mr. President, before we act on the motion, these are the four resolutions. Resolution number 4, resolution number 5, and there's a simple resolution, Senate resolution. Mr. President, with the consent of the body, I move to transfer Senate Joint Resolution number 4 from the Committee on Finance to the Committee on Social Justice as primary committee, and secondary committee is the Committee on Agriculture, and tertiary committee is the Committee on Finance. For Senate this is for Senate Joint Resolution number 4, Senate Joint Resolution number 5, and to take in consideration Senate Resolution number 150.
All right. Senate Resolution number 4, Joint Resolution 5, and 150. Any objection? Hearing none, motion is approved.
And Mr. President, with the consent of the body, I move to suspend Section 22, particularly on the 3-day notice rule, so that they can conduct committee hearings tomorrow. Therefore, allow the concerned committees to conduct the hearings immediately, with the permission of the body.
22?
Section 22 is the 3-day rule, committee rule, to allow members to receive the copies of the notices.
You are just suspending the period,
Yes.
but the notice
Yes,
should be
just the period of 3 days,
executed,
Mr. President.
All right. Does that include the other committees?
No, Mr. President, just only for the three resolutions that we referred to the Committee on Social Justice and Agriculture and Finance.
Senator De La Rosa was asking me earlier about a hearing he wanted to conduct on Thursday. It's a hearing requested by by the presiding officer.
Yes, for 1 minute suspension, sir.
Pasok yun, ano? Oh, it's all right. It's all right then. Yeah.
Yes, it will still be 3 days
All right,
if he gives the notice
Okay.
out today.
So the suspension for Section 22 on the manifested resolutions. Any objection? Hearing none. Motion is approved.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I believe Senator Bongo was supposed to accept interpellations for his measure. May I ask for 1 minute, Mr. President? Oh, there he is. There's the good gentleman. May
So
we
what
resume?
what is your pleasure, Majority Leader?
Mr. President, I move to resume consideration of Senate Bill number 1076.
Any objection? Hearing none, consideration of the measure is in order.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, we're in the period of interpellation. I move to recognize Senator Bongo, Senator Christopher Go, to sponsor and to interpolate the distinguished minority floor leader. But I have to check if he's willing to interpolate.
Senator Bongo is recognized for the period of interpolation. And the minority leader is
Gladly,
recognized if
Mr.
he's
President.
ready to interpolate.
For the record, Mr. President, I have no
Mr. President,
no questions for the man.
for the record, sometimes the majority leader would request me to interpolate because the questions that he will want to raise may cause a reorganization of the office of the majority leader. But, Mr. President, I have discussed with the good sponsor the issues that I have in mind in order to prepare him and his answers so that it can be spread for the record. Mr. President, we hope that we'll be given time to review the other provisions. Just for the record, Mr. President, I have no objections to this measure because it is simply it appears to me to be a one-stop shop concept. So we have no problems with that. There are certain ramifications, however, and situations which I would want to spread into the record for purposes of the implementation of this measure. And some of them I have already relayed to the sponsor, and he can confirm that, Mr. President. So, but I need a little more time to look at the measure. It was just sponsored today, and therefore we request that we be given time to examine the other portions of the bill. But we have no objection to the passage of this measure.
Senator, the majority leader.
Thank you.
Mr. President, with that, since the others who want to interpolate asked if they can interpolate tomorrow, I move to suspend consideration of the said measure, Mr. President.
Any objection? Hearing none. Consideration measure suspended.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, may I ask for 1 minute suspension?
Session suspended.
Ako, move to approve na eh. Parang you're doubting pa my support. Okay, Mr. President, ready to resume.
Session resumed.
While we are awaiting for Senator Gordon, Mr. President, we'll move forward to Senate Bill number 1074. I move to resume consideration of Senate Bill number 1074.
1074, any objection? Hearing none. Consideration is in order.
Mr. President, I move to recognize the sponsor, Senator Pia Cayetano, and to interpolate Senator Francis Tol Tolentino.
Senator Pia Cayetano is recognized, and Senator Tolentino to interpolate.
Mr. President, will the good sponsor of the measure yield to some questions?
Yes, I gladly yield to the senator from Cavite.
Mr. President, the proposed measure is an excise tax. Is this correct, Mr. President?
Yes, it is a taxation measure, and specifically it is to raise excise tax from the sale of electronic nicotine delivery system products, which include e-cigs, heated tobacco, vapes, and the like. There are many names, but those are the products.
Mr. President, is it a correct premise that before we subject a certain item to taxation, it must be first recognized as a taxable item, or a taxable service, or a taxable product? Is this the correct impression that I can call from the good lady sponsor?
I imagine the correct answer to that should be yes, that it should be a taxable matter.
So, Mr. President, my understanding from the National Internal Revenue Code, which I will I have it with me, Mr. President, is that before a material becomes taxable, it has to be recognized. May I know from the good lady sponsor if items coming from Juul, I hope I pronounce it correctly, vape products, e-cigarettes, are recognized by the Food and Drug Administration in this country, Mr. President?
Yes, it is, Mr. President.
Because, Mr. President, during the hearing presided by the good lady sponsor, and with due respect, I was of the impression that the FDA is still in the process of scrutinizing, studying as to whether to recognize the product subject to the proposed taxation.
Actually, Mr. President, the Department of Health has actually come out with AO number 2019-007. The subject matter is revised rules and regulations on electronic nicotine and non-nicotine delivery systems. So they have actually come out with this, and so I think it's quite clear that they recognize this product and the health risk. If you read this, the details of this administrative order.
My understanding, Mr. President, is for a product to be recognized by the FDA or the Food and Drug Administration, there has to be a certificate emanating from said office signed by the director certifying that said product can now be made available to the consuming public.
Is there any that has
Is it correct to say that we have an FDA certification concerning Juul and other e-cigarettes, Mr. President?
license to operate? Mr. President, we have representatives from FDA here with us, and they informed the body that there are companies that have already obtained a license to operate. But with regards to certificate of product registration, there are none. Are there any pending? And there are none pending at the moment.
Mr. President.
So, Mr. President, may I just spread into the record for the information of all, those are the two regulatory requirements, a license to operate and a certificate of product registration. So there are those who registered for the first to have the license to operate, and but there are none for the certificate of product registration.
So in effect, Mr. President, the admission of the good lady sponsor would mean that this product, because of the non-availability or it has not yet been subjected to FDA scrutiny, cannot yet be introduced to the Philippine or local domestic market, Mr. President. Am I correct in having that conclusion, Mr. President?
Mr. President, my personal opinion on that is it should not be, because precisely you have this regulatory agency that is supposed to tell us if products are safe for human consumption, if they may be sold to the public, if the sales in any way are restricted, if they have to be prescribed, if there must be restrictions in terms of age. That is precisely why we go through the process of getting a certificate of product registration. If I may just take it a step further, I am not an expert on the FDA rules in America. However, I'd just like to point out that, like example in the US of some of these ends product, the status is they are allowed to sell, but that has been made very clear does not include allowing them to make a statement that it is safe. So the US has even gone further by, well, their practice in itself, the regulatory practice in itself has different steps. So they're allowed to sell, that has been granted, but there is no certification or permission given to make claims that it is a safe product in the US. So in the Philippines for now, actually we are not, there have not even been any applications. So if you ask me, all of these products that are on sale in the market can be confiscated. That's my opinion.
Mr. President, again, I would like to give the impression that I am for sin taxes. My only worry here, Mr. President, is that we will be taxing an item before it has been given government recognition. Because as the good lady sponsor correctly stated, that the product has been widely disseminated in another jurisdiction, the United States. But I'd like to inform likewise the good lady sponsor, Mr. President, that the state of Washington, September 27, just a few days ago, banned Juul. The state of Rhode Island banned Juul. The state of Michigan banned Juul. The state of New York banned
So there has
Juul.
been notice
The
given.
state of Massachusetts banned all e-cigarettes, including the city of San Francisco, leading President Trump to instruct the US FDA to study the possibility of banning altogether products labeled as e-cigarettes. Meaning to say, Mr. President, even a first world country such as the United States, its regulatory agency, the Food and Drug Administration, has yet to make up its mind on whether to give certification to e-cigarette or Juul. I recall in a parallel, Mr. President, investigation conducted by the 17th Congress. And this has something to do, whether I'm correct or not, something to do with the current dengue crisis. It was found out that the World Health Organization has not yet given its imprimatur to disseminate Dengvaxia. And what happened then was, as far as my recollection is concerned, and although I was not a member of the 17th Congress, was that the Philippines sort of became the guinea pig laboratory for the Dengvaxia vaccine coming from France. My worry, Mr. President, is this: lacking official government imprimatur, such as the one coming from the United States. Incidentally, India, a few days ago, likewise, or a few weeks ago, banned e-cigarettes, or is contemplating a total ban on Juul. My worry, Mr. President, is that this might turn out to be similar or akin to the Dengvaxia vaccine, wherein the Philippines would become the testing ground, the Filipino youth, so to speak, of e-cigarettes, the vape or Juul. Would the gentle lady agree with me that there is no active certification in existence right now from anywhere in the world, except probably the source of manufacturing, China, because Juul products are coming from Shenzhen, China. I'm not so familiar with the certification coming from China. There is no country right now which recognizes the safety insofar as health hazard is concerned, and then probably came out with a certification as to warrant the sale of Juul and other electric cigarettes related products, Mr. President.
There were a number of questions in
Yes,
that.
if I, Mr. President, if I can be allowed to dissect it. One, there is no single government entity right now that has given its clearance for the sale of Juul or other electric cigarettes. Number two, this representation insinuated that in the United States, where this originally came from, several states, I mentioned a while ago, the latest of which is the state of Washington, September 27, 2019, banned altogether the sale and dissemination of Juul. I'm referring to Juul, Mr. President.
This representation, Mr. President, is not aware that there is any state that has actually made a finding on the safety of e-cigarette products. I use that term generally. So this representation is not aware. The example, in fact, that I gave is that it was made very clear that in the US, although it is allowed to sell, it cannot make any claims on safety. So that is the information that is also provided to us by the representatives here from the Department of Health, and that is also my recollection from the hearings that we held. As to the second question on the banning, I have a list of countries that have banned HTPs. There are 10 countries. I can give this list because as to the banning of e-cigarettes, there are even more. There are 42 countries that have banned. So those are the facts that we have. As to whether we can tax a product that has not yet been officially registered in the Philippines or given the permission to be sold in our jurisdiction, let me just point out that under RA 11346, we have already taxed e-cigarettes. So this representation, your committee is not proposing a new kind of tax. This has already been recognized by Congress as within its jurisdiction. So this representation is basically, this committee is increasing that tax. I'd also like to point out that in terms of recognizing the existence of this product, the same AO that I mentioned earlier, AO 2019007 by Department of Health in Section 11 gives the companies who are involved in the distribution, sale of the ENDS product a period of 3 months for them to comply with these guidelines, including registration. I will further read Section 11. It says, ENDS products verified to be unregistered after the given grace period shall be subject to seizure, and persons, establishments, including officers and directors responsible for their distribution or introduction in the Philippines, shall be subject to the imposition of appropriate regulatory action after due process. I believe this 3 months period ends on October 25 this year, and this tax, if ever, at the earliest will be in 2020.
Mr. President, let me respond to the statement given by the lady sponsor. Probably to clarify the banning in the United States, the recent joint press conference of Governor Andrew Cuomo together with the Governor of New Jersey would just be not just an unprecedented act, but an effort that would really highlight the negative ramifications of allowing the market to have e-cigarettes, Mr. President. And as to the claim of the good sponsor that an administrative order emanating from the Department of Health recognizing the
need to register.
The need to register. Probably the good lady senator would agree with me that recognizing the need to register is really different from the certificate of registration itself. That's why my opening premise, Mr. President, is that before you introduce the concept of taxation, the first element should be whether the item is taxable or not. And I'm leading now to my next premise, Mr. President, that the issue that still haunts this representation is that is the correct mode or the right issues that we are being confronted right now is whether to ban or to regulate through taxation. I think that's the premise that I would like to have the good lady sponsor realize that if we are after the health of the Filipino youth in compliance with the WHO framework convention on tobacco control and our SGD goals, which I believe the good lady sponsor is really an advocate of. Isn't it correct to state that a total ban of the vape, which we are not totally comfortable with, scientifically not verified, even our own FDA is still studying and researching, is a total ban the right direction, or are we allowing the sale because we might be able to collect a hefty chunk of revenue that can be devoted to other health use, Mr. President?
Mr. President, my quick response to that that very important question, to ban or to regulate, is this, and then I will have a more lengthy response, which is my opinion. The official response is that there already has been a decision made by the executive body to regulate, and that is why this EO provides for many details, including the deadline for registration, and for those that are found acceptable to be sold, they will be regulated and they will be taxed, like I said, as early as, the earliest would be in 2020. For those that do not make the cut, that are unacceptable, then they will be pulled out of the market if they continue to be sold on the market. That has already been the decision that is made. And just to further clarify, the AO already bans certain flavors. To be specific, it's a little bit broad. It covers flavors that are enticing to the use. So the exact wording is, the FDA shall also impose a ban on flavors and additives that are proven or suspected to be appealing to the youth, toxic, harmful, addictive, or sensitizing. So that is the official response. Personally, I believe that Congress can still always debate this issue. It is within our jurisdiction to decide if we want to take more stringent measures, if we want to consider banning. In fact, I was prepared to answer this question by saying that I am actually drafting a bill that will, I'm pretty sure, will be referred to the Committee on Health to look into the harmful effects, because every time I discuss this, those who are in favor of regulating would tell me, I go in too much detail on the health aspect, and that is no longer my job as the chairman of the Committee on Ways and Means. But I do feel it is my job, because I also recognize, I also have the same, I'm thinking along the same line of the senator from Cavite, that before we can tax, is it taxable or should it be banned? Those are thoughts that cross my mind as a chairman of this committee and as a former chairman of the Committee on Health. So I hope I've answered the question of the gentleman on this.
Yes, Mr. President. So, in effect, Mr. President, my confession is this: I am not against the proposed excise tax, especially on alcohol and tobacco, but as regards the Juul and other e-cigarettes, my only worry is that we are now opening a field of proposing taxes to items hitherto not mentioned in the National Internal Revenue Code, not identified as taxable, not recognized by a government regulatory body such as the FDA as taxable. So this is a new field for taxation, Mr. President, because even the good lady sponsor mentioned a while ago that the FDA shall. It speaks in the future tense, requiring probably, necessitating probably for the FDA in the near future, after this bill has been passed, to enact administrative issue circulars, enact administrative measures that would somehow conform with the need to have a certification prior to taxation. So again, this is not just a chicken and egg situation, but this, Mr. President, good, sound, fundamental public policy dictates that we first recognize an item to be taxable, safe for public consumption, before we place that in the universe of taxation. Because how can you tax something which is not part of the ambit of taxable items? Be that as it may, Mr. President, I again reiterate the question. Should we ban or should we tax? And that now goes back to the very rationale of the proposed law. What is the rationale of this? Is it for health purposes or is it to generate funds? And I hope the good lady sponsor can answer clearly the twin questions that I just posed.
Before I go to the last question, which is what is it primarily to generate funds or to protect health, I would just like to reiterate that the government has already made its decision that it will regulate, not ban. So that decision has been made. His Honor, and for that matter, the body, we can continue to look into this and debate, and I'm very open to do that. But I'm just saying for the record, that decision has been made by the executive body that it will be regulated. And that is why they already have this administrative order that is actually 9 pages long. And I think the provision that His Honor pointed out that speaks in the in the future, it says FDA shall. I think that is necessary because this is a new product to all of us, and so it has to have that leeway to come up with further rules and regulations that would further protect interests. So that's why it is general in its terminology. Like I said, the exact wording is shall set standard necessary to restrict shall set standard and necessary restrictions on flavor and additives. The FDA shall impose a ban on flavors that are proven to be appealing. So that's something that they have yet to do. I guess they could not anticipate that there would be flavors like unicorn or beautiful dreams. So they had to capture this in a more generic way by saying, yun nga, flavors that are appealing to the youth, because that flavor itself might not be harmful, but it's appealing to the youth. And that's why they also have flavors that are toxic, harmful, addictive, or sensitizing. Anyway, I will move now to the next question. Is it a tax measure? Is it a health measure? That is a question that has been asked time immemorial when it comes to sin tax. There have always been proponents, and the health sector would bear this out, that a lot of sin products on the market have no redeeming value. Even the saying that we all tell ourselves to justify our 1 glass of red wine a day has been debunked. I was surprised to hear in my hearing that that is not true, that 1 glass of wine a day is healthy. Apparently that is not true, which is personally disappointing to me because I'm not a drinker, but every now and then that is the justification I give myself for having a glass of red wine. So on that note, there's no redeeming value in these sin products, and that debate has been raging, I don't know, maybe a century, as to why is it not banned? Why do we regulate? And we can go back to history, but it will boil down to very simple facts. If you ban it, then we go into the times of the prohibition, famous times that have been made movies out of, where you hide it, it becomes a contraband. It does not circulate in the legal. It does not go through the legal system. People become rich, and the government does not benefit from it, and the public still suffers. So governments in many parts of the world have decided that they will regulate. And that is also the same answer that I will give His Honor today. As a health advocate, I will push for measures even outside the Committee on Ways and Means to support the taxation measure, because taxation is just a tool to achieve the health goals of the sin products. It is just a tool. It is not the be-all and end-all, and therefore we must work hard with our Department of Health, and we must work hard with our Committee on Health to come up with supportive measures that will truly provide a health approach to the problem of smoking and to the problem of excessive drinking. I hope I answered His Honor's questions.
Mr. President, again, referring to my chicken and egg situation a while ago, the good gentle lady mentioned the existence of an FDA administrative order. probably she's referring to an administrative order issued June 14, 2019.
Yes, Your
Am I
Honor.
correct?
Yes, that
So
is correct, Mr.
this
President.
FDA administrative order dated June 14, 2019 is probably the reason why we are having an item that can be taxed. Because as the good lady sponsor mentioned a while ago, this has already been the decision of the executive. Am I correct, Madam Sponsor?
Well, actually, Mr. President, as I mentioned earlier, Congress has already taken jurisdiction over this product by enacting RA 11346. We already taxed e-cigarettes. So, I don't know, and I haven't researched if that stops us from pursuing that, but we have taken jurisdiction of this product as a taxable product by already doing so. This tax will be effective in January. So this effort by your committee is really to give us more time to discuss the issue, and the proposal of the committee is to raise the taxes.
So again, Mr. President, having heard the explanation, we now have a process wherein we will increase the tax of a non-existing taxable item that will be in existence by January of next year. So we tax before that item becomes taxable. But going to another item, Mr. President, this representation is of the opinion that when you open a tin can for tax matters, you sort of open other interrelated matters relative to the National Internal Revenue Code. And if the good gentle lady would permit me to shift to another topic, I will now attempt to dissect an item which would probably crisscross constitutional boundaries. Will the gentle lady allow me to shift to another question now, still in this item as Jule, relative to Jule?
Before we go to another topic, let me just further clarify some of the points raised by His Honor. With respect to the actions taken in the United States, there was a total ban made by San Francisco, Michigan, and Massachusetts. And then for the states of New York, New Jersey, and Rhode Island, it is a ban on flavors. Just to put that into the record. I am amenable to His Honor going to another topic, provided that my request that we stick to the general topic of e-cigs and not go into alcohol is respected, just because I need to be focused on one issue. I do not have the brain capacity to shift between various syntaxes, even though I have not consumed either.
Yes.
But on that note, again, let me end, if we are ending on this topic, that I may not have ended my explanation about the historical basis for taxing sin products, but the end point is they are both. These are both health. We consider this both a health measure and a revenue measure. And in terms of health, the objective is to reduce consumption. And in terms of revenue, it is to collect revenue. And in this case, we have already pointed out that the bulk of the funding is intended to go to the UHC. And again, I will also point out that the companies have until October 25. And so by the time we start taxing, assuming that the Congress will pass this into law in 2020, then these companies would already have their certificate of product registrations, and those that do not have will have to be pulled out of the market. On that note, His Honor may ask me any question. I do not promise that I have the ability to answer, but I will listen.
Thank you, Mr. President. If I may also add, before I shift to another item, is that when we speak of the banning of vape, e-cigarettes, and Juul in the United States, as we speak, there are more than 800 cases of illnesses coming from nicotine, salt, a main ingredient of Juul. And the said product is now in the Philippine market. And to continue, Mr. President, perhaps the good lady sponsor can re-educate this representation as well as this august body as to the ownership of Juul. Is it correct that Juul is now owned 35% by Philip Morris International and Marlboro? Altria.
Altria owns,
Altria Group, Mr. President.
Mr. President, I'm asking for the precise answer.
Yes.
Because those are parties that seem to be involved, but I'm getting the precise answer because I'm told that one bought one and bought into the other, so I want to give a precise answer. If His Honor would like to proceed to a next question, because definitely there are parties involved, but I want to give you an accurate answer.
Yes, Mr. President, because I'm now veering into the sphere of corporate taxation, because if there is a Philip Morris International, there is a Philip Morris Philippines, and if there is a 35% stake of Philip Morris International in Juul, in the company Juul, bought by the Altria Group, it follows that Philip Morris Philippines is also a part owner of Juul, Mr. President.
I can't give His Honor an answer right now. They're checking because those are names that really came up. I just cannot answer yet if there is like a grandfather rule here or if they both directly bought into Juul directly. I cannot answer that yet. So we can suspend or you can proceed with
Just
your...
one last question before, two questions more before we suspend. The reason why I'm asking this, Mr. President, is that looking forward, and our counterpart in the House of Representatives already passed CITIRA, the second phase of the train law. And eventually, this chamber would also consider CITIRA. CITIRA, if I'm not mistaken, would refer to a 20% tax on corporations coming from 30%. And if my interconnections and linkages would serve me right, it would appear that the corporation operating Juul, if they're here in the Philippines, would be subject to a 20% tax coming from 30%, a 10% corporate tax deduction, and here we are exercising the congressional right to increase taxes through the excise tax of e-cigarettes, adding another layer of tax, but at the same time, through the CITIRA, we'll lower it by 10%, Mr. President. Tinaasan nga natin yung bawat produkto, subalit yung pinanggagalingan ng produkto, nagmamanufacture ng produkto, ay binabaan naman natin yung buwis. If we are going to harmonize all our tax laws, would it be much better, Mr. President, if we are going to pursue CITIRA, and I hope we can have that passed because it will be for the positive revenue collection of the government, wag na po natin isali si Juul. Kasi kaya nga natin tinatax si Juul because as what the good lady sponsor mentioned a while ago is to have regulations as well as to have revenues. But what would happen if we tax a product, an item, additional tax through this excise tax, but the company, the corporation producing the tax will be given a windfall benefit of 10% corporate tax deduction? I think, Mr. President, if I'm correct, if my research is correct, I think that would be a taxation anomaly. Binabaan natin, tapos tinaasan uli natin, Mr. President.
Thank you for that question, Mr. President. His Honor is fast forward. I am not yet defending CITIRA on the floor. His Honor makes me laugh because he actually already gave me a sneak peek that he will ask me, and I said, don't you dare ask me because si Tira is not yet scheduled, probably till December at the earliest. But on that note, I will humor His Honor. The first question, I have it now on the ownership of Juul, no? Jules. Altria owns Philip Morris USA. Philip Morris International owns IQOS. IQOS is another brand, no? IQOS is the heated tobacco product. But Altria owns 35% of Juul.
35%.
35% of Juul. International, Tony.
Yes. So,
International. Yeah. International. Yeah. So, on that note, is that okay? Can I proceed to the second question?
so these are interlocking
Yes.
ownership, and probably the board of directors would probably...
Well, basically, Altria is investing in all kinds of e-cigarettes out there. That is what I can conclude from those figures, because Juul and IQOS are two dominant players in the e-cig environment.
Okay.
There are two different mechanisms. One is the heated product, tobacco product, and the other one is the closed system. I can proceed now
Yes.
to humor His Honor with his
Yes.
Sitira questions.
I will be very much willing to be titillated, Mr. President.
Baka po bumalik si Senator Ralph Recto sa kwentuhan natin if it is that exciting. Anyway, okay. The corporate income tax restructuring that is being proposed is meant to affect almost 1 million corporations from micro to large companies. No? It's something like 899,000 firms. So whether it's a company involved in food manufacturing, textile manufacturing, and in this case, alternative cigarette distribution or manufacturing, that corporate income tax structure being proposed is meant to cover all of them. And His Honor is correct that we are bringing down the taxation by about 10%, no? From 30 to about 20 over a gradual period of time. So yes, this will benefit all, including those that are selling sin product that His Honor and I are not necessarily fans of. So that is the situation. Until we ban, we go back to his original question, until we ban, well, they are products that are considered, or until we ban or until the regulation, they violate regulations that we put into place, sellers of sin tax will benefit from the lowering of prices. The lowering of income tax. So it so happens that these e-cigarette companies would be one of them.
Mr. President, the good gentle lady a while ago intimated that she's willing to have 2 more questions before we
Yes,
suspend.
actually, just to clarify, when I said suspend, I really just meant if His Honor would like to suspend while I'm getting the answer.
Okay.
You can ask me as many numbers as our majority floor leader can take on this topic.
Just 3 more final questions before we suspend, Mr. President, on the issue of advertisement. When I was a small boy, I can still remember the tobacco advertisement. Come to where the flavor is. Come to Marlboro country.
I remember, Your Honor, I
am
remember.
flashing that on the screen, Mr. President. Come to where the flavor is. Come to Marlboro country. And then you have Virginia Slims. And then this one looks more, but this is not familiar with me. To me, G, Dad, you always get the best of everything, even Marlboro. A small baby. What I'm driving at, Mr. President, is that Juul and other e-cigarettes came into the picture by word of mouth and internet online advertising. You don't see this on television. Take a look at this advertising pictures, Mr. President. Youngsters smoking. This one came from Stanford, and then a previous one. Can we have the previous slide, please? Take a look at this. The Juul launch party. The makers of packs invite you. This seems to be very exciting. a young girl, probably about to, she's inhaling her Juul product, and there are other colorful, the next, and this one, vaporize. You see how it is appealing to the minority floor leader is pointing to the video. There, it's really captivating and enticing to see pictures. You don't have to bend and pose for a photograph like that to enhance your sales. But what I'm driving, Mr. President, is this: all Juul products, e-cigarettes, came into the Philippine market not by virtue of TV advertisements, not by virtue of radio placements, not through billboards. I have yet to see a billboard, but perhaps through the internet, online, and word of mouth among, this one is new, click to buy your Juul and Juul Pods direct. So this is probably for online buyers. What I'm saying is this: the market is the young generation, aged 15 to 18 to 19. And perhaps if we follow the example cited by the New York governor, even those in grades 10, 11, and 12, Mr. President, what I'm saying is this: in our existing statute, there are provisions banning the advertisement, prohibiting advertisements of cigarettes in Republic Act 9211 through cable TV, radio, television, and other media. Am I of the impression, Mr. President, and I ask the good lady sponsor, is this, am I correct to equate this with the existing laws, or do we have to craft another statute that would ban this? Because what I'm driving at, Mr. President, is this: wala pa ngang advertisement itong mga to. Ay ang dami lang naninigarilyo. Lalong-lalo na siguro pag lumabas ito sa radyo, sa TV, sa cable, TV, etc. Can the good gentle lady answer my question as regards advertisement?
Yes, Mr. President, I would be happy to respond to that. Actually, Mr. President, the AO that we have been talking about, 2019007, provides for a comprehensive ban. I will read. This is item 6, section 6, subsection 10. A comprehensive ban on any form of advertising, promotion, and sponsorship, including corporate social responsibility campaigns by the industry of ends products, shall be implemented upon approval of this order. So this AO already recognizes that advertising, promotions, and sponsorships shall be restricted. I'd like His Honor to also know that, or the body to know that during our hearing, if I remember correctly, the representative of Juul mentioned that they will not be advertising in any way. Do you have any more details? But generally, that's what they said, right? Yeah, and my staff confirms that. I cannot recall if there was a similar statement from other companies, but Juul did say that. In fact, they wanted to set a meeting with the committee, with the staff, to discuss that further, because I was told that they are committed not to advertise. Nevertheless, I feel that is a move in the right direction by that particular company, but I still believe that government should dictate the direction of this advertising. I share His Honor's concern, because I will give an example. Even if you ban advertising or social media gimmicks that are initiated by the company, any regulation, to me, should take into consideration that sometimes, like His Honor said, going in the same line of direction, this product became known through word of mouth. So young people, kids, teenager, can come up with their own party, and it can go viral if it's a nice party just by coming up with a hashtag that somehow ends up promoting this product. And I personally am very, very concerned about this. I will repeat just a short line that I included in my sponsorship speech by bio-behavioral scientist Shutira Krishnan Sarin, wherein she said that the first time I heard and saw an e-cigarette, I knew right away that teens would love it. These devices are technology on a stick, a perfect fit for the smartphone generation. Since I had a long time spending research on teens and adult addiction, I immediately realized that these devices fit perfectly into the teen psyche. Teens are impulsive and they love to try new things. They also crave independence and they love to make their things their own. E-cigs meet these needs perfectly by allowing them the chance to both innovate and personalize their vape experience. This really had an impact on me, Mr. President, when I read this, because I knew that that is the danger that we face. If the young people, the youth, find it attractive, then that in itself is the enemy we have, this attraction that the youth has for this product. And I think I also mentioned during the privilege speech, I put into the record that my chief of staff son is 13 years old, and he told his mother that his classmates are using these products already.
I agree, Mr. President, that even the mantra now of the teens referred to a while ago by the good lady sponsor can be summed up by, we don't vape, we joule. We don't vape, we joule. So, Mr. President, I think there is a need for this representation to take a look at the administrative order mentioned a while ago by the good gentle lady. That's why we'll be asking for a suspension, because apparently I am of the impression that the administrative order probably has no statute to back it up. Because, Mr. President, when, and this is again another part of my thesis, in our National Internal Revenue Code, and I will ask the comment of the good gentle lady. But first, I don't buy the commitment of Juul that they will stop advertising, because even the president of Philip Morris, and I showed the video during the committee hearing, promised and committed that within 5 years they will stop manufacturing Philip Morris. I showed you that video from
Yes.
that Greek president of PMI. But for my final question, Mr. President, before we suspend, is the...
Just for the record, Mr. President, my understanding of the statement of, I think he was the Asia Pacific head, was no advertising in the Philippines. I really don't know, because I know that I have on my own seen lots of things that resemble advertising in other jurisdictions. So my understanding was he was referring to, it was a commitment not to advertise in the Philippines. Just to point that out.
So, Mr. President, perhaps another idea that that came to the mind of this representation, perhaps the executive department, the Department of Finance can study this. Is there a possibility in all of these products to have an advertiser's tax? Whether you advertise in the internet, whether you advertise online and other venue, is there a possibility for sin products to be taxed through advertisement?
Yes, Mr. President, there is always that option. I would just like to clarify, though, that if there is an absolute ban on advertising, then there would be no means to advertise it. But in general, if for whatever reason advertising is merely regulated, then that is something that can be done. And I have a DOF USEC Chua telling me that it can be done. I'd also like to put on the record, in response to His Honor's earlier comment on laws on advertising, this representation is drafting a bill that will regulate and ban, depends on the recommendations of the experts, marketing and advertising and all other various forms of marketing of this e-cig product. So I would welcome His Honor and any of our colleagues input on this measure because I truly am concerned that it will have a direct impact on the lives of our young people.
So Mr. President, given existing statutes banning advertisement of cigarettes and tobacco products within school premises, TV, cable, radio, etc., can the good lady sponsor affirm that said prohibition likewise apply to vapes, Juul, and other e-cigarette products?
I'm sorry, Mr. President, can you repeat that? Does what apply?
There is an existing ban by virtue of Republic Act 9211, the Tobacco Regulation Act of 2003, banning the advertisement of cigarettes and other tobacco-related products. Is vape included?
Vapes are not tobacco. Okay. Mr. President, we must distinguish HTP products would be covered by that law because HTPs are heated tobacco products. The vapes similar to Juul are not tobacco products per se. So they would not be covered, and a new law or executive order would be necessary to regulate them.
Again, Mr. President, the pictures I showed a while ago, if we don't have this prohibition, would probably be shown in our televisions during movie breaks, would be plastered in newspapers, billboards along SLEX, NLEX, EDSA. So probably the good lady senator sponsor would agree with me that empirical studies would show that there is a relationship between cigarette consumption and advertisement. In the same manner as my fear is that Juul consumption would rise because there is no law yet to ban the advertisements of Juul and other e-cigarette related products, Mr. President.
Mr. President, that concern was shared by the health advocates and civil society because precisely because these e-cig products are being promoted as an alternative, in fact, a healthier alternative or a safer alternative, and because the health experts are of the opinion that there is no evidence that it is safer because there is no degree of it cannot be said that it is risk-free, and so their concern is the exposure of this product, whether it is just in a stall or through other means like advertisement, would really be very dangerous precisely because the science is not clear on how dangerous these products are. Mr. President, I'd like to inform our colleagues that I myself do not limit the danger to the youth, because when we say the youth, the minute you turn 18, you are considered an adult, and therefore it's as if you can now be the subject of all this persuasive advertising. And I personally disagree because the conditions that affect the youth would not change overnight just because that person has turned 18. Because there are scientific findings that this is detrimental to ano bang part ng body ng youth? It is damaging to the nicotine, no? Nicotine yan. It's damaging to the prefrontal cortex of a developing brain of the youth. But my point is, it doesn't mean that you are no longer affected because you had your 18th birthday. I surmise that even if you are 18 and 6 months, 19 and so on and so forth, you would still be affected. So I am very much concerned for the young people in general, even if they're 22, 24, 25, so on and so forth, because the problem with nicotine is that it is addictive. And if you start, the earlier you start, the more addictive it is for you, the harder it is to stop. So it doesn't mean that if you started when you were 19, it is safe for you, or if you're 21, it is safe for you. It is not safe, and it is still addictive.
I agree, Mr. President. And in fact, if our good lady colleague would open the website of Juul, www.juul.com, PH, the website would contain the following phrases: age-restricted product, not for sale to minors. Warning, this product contains nicotine. Nicotine is an addictive chemical, unquote. So the manufacturer, the distributor, they themselves admit that e-cigarette, the Juul product, contains nicotine, which is an addictive chemical. So that's why, Mr. President, when it comes to advertisement, this representation would propose that be included in the similarly situated prohibitions concerning your regular cigarette. If your regular cigarette is banned from advertising, Juul should also be banned, because take a look at this. How can you resist a product picture such as that, especially for the youth? Tayo nga napapatingin, especially this, mapapatingin ka talaga. And when you look closely, ano ba yan? Juul. So, Mr. President, I would suggest that this be made very explicit and be part of the legislation being sponsored by the good lady senator, that the advertisement of e-cigarettes be prohibited. Because my worry, Mr. President, is this: even if we prohibit this through legislation, and similar to the regular cigarettes, where you're not allowed to advertise Marlboro, Philip Morris in our mainstream media, television, there is still a tweak, a gap, so to speak, Mr. President, because they are allowed to post signages. And even in Juul, they are allowed to post small tarpaulins. Juul probably in the next year would post in small stores Juul products available here. So it is a form of advertisement. And Mr. President, you would not believe this probably. If you dissect our National Internal Revenue Code, there is a provision in our Internal Revenue Code. There is a provision concerning deductions. Advertisements can be deducted as an ordinary and necessary expense. So you see the anomaly here, Mr. President. We are planning, and the gentle lady sponsor agreed with me, that this can be prohibited. But just the same, we have to overhaul portions of the National Internal Revenue Code, because it provides that when it comes to gross income taxation, business may deduct ordinary and necessary business expenses, and that includes advertisements, placing of tarpaulins, placing of small signages, because the purpose of the law is to help small businesses, is to help business, the business establishment. So why in the world you will tax this? Excise tax. Why in the world will you give an additional deductible expense for an indirect advertisement of Juul and other tobacco-related products? Binuwisan mo na. Tinulungan mo pang lumaganap sa pagbibigay ng deduction. At pag dumating pa yung kinatatakutan kong pagkakataon, baka pag napas yung lowering of corporate income tax, mabawasan pa ng 10%. So how can this be a form of regulation? You help the business, and at the same time, you tax the product of the business because of health reasons. So I don't see at this point, Mr. President, the anomaly, the fallacy concerning this. We have to be very consistent when we tax. Talagang i-tax natin because we cannot ban. But if we tax a portion and you give an incentive in another portion and you promote an incentive in another portion, pareho pa rin yun. Mas mabuti na siguro hindi natin na-recognize, Mr. President. Probably, I've been getting hand signals from the majority leader. I'm willing to suspend. Siguro that's my last question.
Yes.
If we amend the provision, we might as well amend other provisions to harmonize existing provisions, Mr. President.
Mr. President, my Senator Cynthia Villar is telling me that I will just accept so that we can suspend immediately.
Thank you.
I have a longer answer, which I will give the gentleman when we continue, but basically all his comments are well taken, and I will welcome this recommendation for other sin products as well, because other sin products are widely advertised, and I share his honor's concern, and I thank the gentleman for bringing these matters up. And on that note, I will move to suspend
I
our
yield, Mr.
interpellation.
President. I thank the
you.
good lady sponsor. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Majority Leader.
Mr. President, I move to suspend consideration of Senate Bill number 1074, but not the interpellation of Senator Tolentino. I think he still is part of the list. He still has a few questions to ask. So I so move, Mr. President.
Any objection? Hearing none, motion is approved.
Mr. President, on my earlier motion for the 3 resolutions on the 4-piece, the giving of rice for the 4-piece program, Mr. President, I move to withdraw my earlier motion, Mr. President, on referring it to the Committee on Social Justice. The joint resolution number 4, joint resolution number 5 in consideration of Senate resolution number 150. I move to withdraw my earlier motion, Mr. President.
All right, any
So-
objection? Hearing none, so withdrawn.
Mr. President, the new motion will be that the committee, the primary committee will be the Committee on Agriculture, and the secondary committee will be Committee on Social Justice, and the tertiary committee will be Committee on Finance for Senate resolution, joint resolution number 4, 5, and PS resolution number 150.
150. All right. Any objection? Hearing none, so transferred.
And
So referred.
the amendment to Rule Section 22 on this particular issue remains, which is basically allowing them to hear tomorrow.
Yes.
yes. Not needing the 3-day rule for this particular
Get
resolution.
it, get it.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, there being no matters to take up, we can take the other 2 bills tomorrow and continue the interpellations tomorrow, Mr. President. Any housekeeping matters? We're okay? Just some housekeeping matters, Mr. President. May I request the Secretariat, our dear Secretary, together with DepSec Belen and the Bills and Index, because I'm receiving a lot of complaints on the referrals of our bills. May we meet tomorrow, a special meeting, not necessarily a meeting of the Committee on Rules, but maybe meeting on the Secretariat in the morning, room and time to be announced by my staff, so that we can clear this, Mr. President, the issues on the referrals, because I've noticed we've had a lot of change of referrals in the last few days, which shouldn't be the case. So I'll meet with them tomorrow with the permission of the body and the Secretariat, Mr. President.
Yes, the Secretariat is so directed to attend the meeting being called by the Chairman of Committee on Rules.
Thank you, Mr. President. With that, I move that we adjourn session until 3 o'clock in the afternoon, Tuesday, October 1. So moved.
Any objection? Hearing none, session is adjourned until 3 o'clock in the afternoon of Tuesday, October 1, 2019.